Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. She's back. Oh my God. Pia Silva, no BS agencies, badass your brand, and now the latest, the greatest, Scale Solo. So glad to talk to you. Welcome back to the show.
David, my pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me back.
So for the people that don't know, and we've had you on before, and we got to have you on again. We haven't even started yet, but I know we have to have you on again because we have so much to talk about today.
I do.
You have a very fascinating backstory, and I would love you to spend just 60 seconds on the professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, the Scale Solo book, all of those things, and what were some fun kind of pockets and detours along the way.
Okay, in 60 seconds.
Or less, or more.
I'll do my best.
Perfect.
Started my business around my husband's freelance design. Built a small agency the way I thought we should with employees, ended up in debt, had to fire our employees, retooled our business and started doing intensives, made $500,000 in the next 12 months because of that retooling. Wrote a book about it in 2017, thought that was going to bring me clients for my business, which it did. But unexpectedly, it also brought me a lot of small branding agencies saying, you keep mentioning how you run your business. Can you teach me more about that? 2021, I decided to go all in on teaching the business model to these branding agencies. I've been doing that for the past 5 years. And then this past August, I felt like it was time, I always wanted to do this, for me to go back to my original audience, which was solo expert business owners, and now teach this model that I have become, super expert in now in great detail after teaching it to hundreds of people and coaching on it for 5 years to the wider audience, because this applies to anyone selling high-level expertise. And in order to do that, I knew it was time to write my next book, explain the model in great detail, and spread the word that, growing just for growth's sake is not the only way. And I personally hired my employees because I read E-Myth, and it shamed me and made me feel like the only way I was a real business owner is if I had employees. And I'm ready to say I am giving you permission to say you are a badass business owner and you don't need to have employees to be that.
Oh, so good. Well, you are singing my song, because I also descaled, unscaled my business. And the pivotal line that I wrote down in a mastermind meeting back in 2024 is, I have scaled myself into unhappiness. And it's all the bro scalers, the peer pressure, grow, hire, build, empire builder. I'm not an empire builder. And many of your readers and your followers are not empire builders. And I love that when you said, hey, listen, I was shamed into doing this because I thought you were supposed to. I thought a real business was employees and overhead and team and, all the E-Myth nonsense. Take yourself out of the business, make yourself unnecessary to the business. Most of us started this damn thing because we love the work of the work. We don't love leading and hiring and strategizing and CEOing, but there's so much pressure to do that. So I think one of the greatest things about Scale Solo is the permission, just the conceptual permission that it's okay to start solo, be solo, grow solo. You don't need any of the other nonsense. Talk about when people come to you with the scale, more, bigger. How do you give them permission? What do you say? What do you do? What are some of the aspects of your coaching that say, hey, listen, it's okay to stay solo?
Yeah. Well, I think because I've always had this message of how to grow profit, freedom, and ease without employees, without a team. I've always said that because that is really actually shedding myself of the team was how I made so much more money in so much less time. So I think just when people see that, they feel that permission, because a lot of times when people come to me, what they say is, I was just so attracted to you because finally someone was telling me I could do this without having to hire. Finally, I didn't even know if that was a possibility. And what I usually start with to show them is that I start with the number. I'm a numbers person. Actually, I did it in my first book, and I do it probably even a little more in this book. Like, there are some parts where I kind of get into the numbers as little as possible, but like, the numbers tell the story, the numbers, the story of how to do this is in the numbers. So what do you want to make and how long does it take? And it's really a pretty simple math formula. And if we just do it, we'll know exactly what to do. And if you throw some employees in there, those numbers have to go up a lot. And if you show people those two options, they realize, oh, that does look a lot easier. And why did I think that I had to get these? Why did I think I had to grow in this way? And it's to your point, we all got that message.
I want to talk a little bit, and we can go through the whole scale solo model and methodology, but people listening, they're thinking, well, wait a second. So scaling, no team, no hiring. I know this must be about Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads. This must be about, buying attention, buying leads, building funnels. Typically, high-end experts don't do any of those things. So, number one, is that correct? And then number two, what are some of the lead generation strategies if people are saying, Pia, this all sounds great, but not enough people know who I am. Not enough people are coming to me to begin with.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. I do not think high-level experts should be spending money on ads at all. And you can just burn cash, and I've burned lots of cash on ads, some that has worked very well and others not. But I think, so I spent the last 5 years teaching this model and teaching how to build an authority machine with content. I have built a successful business partially because of all of the content that I've created, right? You and I both have books. We have podcasts. Like, there is a lot of value in building your authority through content. However, having coached so many people through this, what I have found is that it takes quite a while for that content to get the traction needed to bring in actual new leads. And when I talk about creating a content machine, an authority content machine, people want to jump to that because they think it's a quick fix. And what they don't realize, it's the longest path. It is worth doing. Don't get me wrong. It's worth doing, even if it's just to build your own authority, because when you create content, you and I both know, you write a book, you understand what you think so much better. You're more able to communicate it. But also it's there for anybody who is interested in working with you. There's a plethora of things to look at to get to know what you think and how you think so that they trust you, so that they hire you. But actually, you can build a very successful business without a lot of content at all, maybe just some core pieces that really communicate what you know and how you think through the referral networking machine. And the difference between just networking and passing out business cards and having a really thoughtful strategy for how do I build and maintain and nurture a really high level effective network of people who will send me clients. Because in my model, when we were doing this full time without this second business that I have now, $10, $12, $30,000 clients a year, a week for each of them. I mean, sweet life. I need 12 clients a year. I'm taking home $360,000 a year. Like, sign me up. So you don't need, and you do not need a big audience, and you do not need to kill yourself trying to bring in cold traffic for that. It's really just high level value traffic. And most of that comes from referrals. And when I talk to people, even who are doing all the content machine. When I ask them, yeah, but where did your last 5 clients come from? It's like referrals. Like, yeah, they always come from referrals. When I'm hiring someone for a lot of money, I don't go online. I ask my trusted colleagues, who do you recommend? That's how we hire people. So part of the idea of the Scale Solo book is to try to cut out the clutter that everybody has a lot of shoulds. I should be hiring. I should be doing this. I should be blah, 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 blah. And it takes up so much energy. It's such a weight. Our to-do list feels endless, partially because there's just so much stuff on there we think we're supposed to be doing that we're not doing, but we feel the weight of it. And I just want to say, just get rid of it. Do a couple of things over and over again. And one of the things I talk about, and we can chat about this if you want, is called one killer outreach strategy in order to build and maintain and nurture a high level network. That's it. If you just do that, you will build a very successful business.
Holy tamales, what is better than this podcast episode right here? Well, I'm going to tell you, it is probably a keynote seminar or workshop on market eminence. If you want to bring that to your association, your conference, or your private mastermind to help your audience with 22 strategies to build a bold personal brand, become a business celebrity, and drive unstoppable growth, I would love to serve your group. Just drop me an email, david@doitmarketing.com. I can hear our audience screaming. They're screaming on their treadmills. They're screaming in their cars. Yes, Pia Silva, tell us about the one killer outreach strategy, please. So for their benefit, when they're screaming in their cars and treadmills, tell us more about that. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, sure. When I say it, you're going to be like, "Oh, that's simple." It's like, yeah, it's simple, but you got to do it.
No one's doing it. You people aren't doing it. Come on, you know you're not doing it. So listen to what you're not doing. Here it is.
So it's basically, how do we leverage our time to continually nurture our existing network? And we do that with gatherings in person or gatherings online, gatherings with potential clients or gatherings with referral sources. There are a lot of different ways to do this. The easiest one is, and I used to do this all the time, right? I would just host a dinner once a month. I picked a restaurant. I hosted a dinner. I always knew, I had it on the schedule every month. And then anyone I met, anyone I was talking to, anyone I wanted to get to know more, hey, I'm actually having a dinner that I think you would really benefit from coming to, because I'm curating a group of really high level business owners that you will want to know. And then use that event, whatever it is, to continually reach out and touch all of the people that you know. I've been to a couple dinners. Selena Sue hosts these dinners all the time. That's how I met her in 2017, was because she invited me to a dinner. I didn't even know her back then. Dory Clark, I've been to a couple of her dinners over the years. So the people that I know that are very high level and even very prominent online, this is how they network and build their referral business. They do it by gathering and by doing it consistently, so that they're having meaningful conversations with multiple people at once and leveraging those events to continually stay in front of and connected to the people that matter most.
Is it always a dinner, or could it also be like an online
Absolutely.
Zoom meeting, like a salon kind of thing?
Yep. So I have students who do it as an online, like I'll give you a great example. So Rayland, she started her podcast last year in our program. She started it to specifically reach out to her ideal clients. So successful female business owners making over $1 million. So she started the podcast just to invite them to come on the show, because that's a really great way to reach out to somebody who you want to talk to and want to potentially be a client at some day. And then anybody who has come on her podcast is now part of this club, this unofficial club that is invited to these champagne events that she hosts. They're completely online, but it's highly curated. The only way to come to this is that you had to have come on the podcast first. And the only way to get on the podcast first is you have to have been invited, because you've been vetted to be a certain level of business owner. And then she hosts these events very thoughtfully. Everybody who's coming has to fill out this intake form, all about themselves, what they're looking for, what would be beneficial, what they can offer. And then she curates this event online once a month. connecting people. She does breakout rooms. She makes sure, she's very thoughtful about how she connects people and gives each other information. She has a topic of discussion. Anyway, point is the whole thing is highly valuable for everybody in the room. And most, if not all of her business comes from either the people in the room hiring her or them referring people to her, because now she is the center of this networking opportunity, this high level curated experience.
Whether online or in person, the dinner, for example, what happens? Like, because a dinner especially, I'm curious about, because typically if it's not thoughtfully designed, you sit down, there's a table, 8 people, 10 people, whatever. The only people you get to talk to is person on your left, person on your right. You're like, oh, this person wearing the feather boa, he looks interesting, but I'm not talking to him because he's all the way at the end of the table. What's the dynamic that makes the dinner format work?
Yes. So I have been to plenty of those dinners, and they are kind of annoying because especially if you end up next to a couple people that didn't really make sense, it's like, great, now I got to sit here all night with this person. So it is absolutely all about how well you lead and curate this event. So the things that I recommend, for example, first of all, little things, right? Send everybody ahead of time. Here's who's coming. Here, let me give you a little blurb about them and their LinkedIn bio. If you have anyone specifically you really know you want to sit next to or you want to, meet, let me know so I can kind of curate the table. I always have everybody, once everybody's arrived, we do a quick introduction around the table. I prefer to time it because if you don't time it, people will run away and start telling their life story. So the purpose is, listen, I just want everybody to have a chance. And then I want us to have discussions. Usually when I ask for an intro, I will have them include something that is not just their 30-second, their elevator pitch, but tell us a couple of interesting things about you. Maybe Selena at the last one I went to, she said, what are you manifesting right now? I'll say, what's one thing about you that nobody knows? Just drop a couple of bits that we can pick up to have conversation.
Sure.
Sometimes I will bring my Go Deep cards. I made a deck of Go Deep cards for our retreats, and they have thought-provoking questions on them, and I'll actually give them around the table so that it's like, hey, everybody just answer this question. And it might be, what is the scariest thing you've ever done? Or like when, it's all kind, but you start having those kinds of conversations and very quickly you connect. And it's
people drop the shields, right?
They drop the shields and they open up and they get to know each other in a different way. Sometimes I'll get to the end of these and it's like, wait a second, we didn't even talk about what you do. Like I forgot. What
right, exactly.
And you want to do business with people like that. So I'll do that. And then I will absolutely switch seats halfway through the dinner so that everybody sits next to at least, 4 other people. And I think, 8 to 12 max is a good size for a meal. So that's generally how I recommend running it. And then at the end, I always have the email ready to go. So at the very end, I go, okay, I'm sending an email right now with everybody's contact so you guys can connect. I know I'm very controlling about this stuff, but I think it's part of what makes them very effective. I might even say, hey, everybody, I want you to take out your phones and take just 30 seconds and write down a couple of things you want to do right after this. You just had some great conversations. Who do you want to follow up with? Did you say you were going to make an introduction for somebody? Like, please write that down right now and then make sure you do it tomorrow because that's part of the value of being here. And the last thing is I like to open it with, did you ever hear the book, The Art of Gathering?
Yes, sure. Priya.
Yes. Beautiful book. So I got this from her. Just starting it with saying, hey, let me just tell you why you're here. Like, let me give you the intentions of this. We want to have some deep conversations. I want you guys to connect as people. And also, I think that's how we do business. And this could be the start of an amazing relationship with someone. So just be open and just setting the tone like that, I think goes a long way.
Oh my gosh. This is so fantastic. I want to move on to other parts of Scale Solo, but I just want to bookmark this for people. What we just talked about in the age of AI, no one's doing this. No one's doing it. No one was doing it before AI. Let's be clear. Not enough people were doing it. But now Everyone's after the shortcut. Everyone's after, how do I build an agent? How do I make AI write my next book? How do I get AI to give me a list of leads and people to invite on my podcast? How do I get AI to fill in the blank? It's like, well, you know what, folks, you don't. That's the short answer is you don't. Holy smokes, so much value in this episode. Listen, if you are loving what you're hearing, feel free to download, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to The Selling Show. Now, back to the interview. So beyond the magic of these referral events and connecting with other humans in this very organic, preferably face-to-face, breathing the same oxygen, belly-to-belly kind of way, what are some other aspects that you write about in Scale Solo that gives a solo expert both permission and a path and a plan to upscale themselves, not multiply, but to upscale better clients, better projects, higher fees, and so on?
Well, I wrote a whole book about it, so I'm going to try to be as concise as possible. I would say we start with the numbers, like I said before. How much do you want to make? I have a rule called the 50-25-25 rule that I wrote about in my first book, and I elaborate on in this book, more detail. Basically says you need to make all the revenue, taxes, personal and business expenses in 50% of your working time with clients or less. So that's a number, right? There's a number of hours a year and you want to make this revenue. So it's math. So we figure out what your offers need to be. We figure out if you are close or not close to that number. And then we put a plan in place to get there. So if you're charging $10,000 for something that your 50-25-25 formula says you need to be charging 20, then we need to make a plan to get you from 10 to 20. And there are really two ways to do that. I call them two levers. One is we need to increase the actual and perceived value of your offer so we can increase the price. And we want to decrease the number of hours you spend delivering. And if we're kind of constantly pulling these two levers, we will get closer to the place that is profitable. It may not be a $20,000 same project. It might be a $15,000 project, but it takes you half the time. And now we're supporting the income goal. And so that's the main concept of the model. And two strategies that I teach in the book is one, it's how to sell the first step. I call it the lead product. So how do we get rid of free proposals? Everything is about leveraging your time. How are we more efficient with our time? I think free proposals are not a great way to manage our time. And instead, we want to get paid for that first step. And then I have a very specific process that I think you should take your clients through. If you're selling expertise, it's about how do we use this paid engagement? It doesn't have to be a lot of money, under $1,000, but how do we use this paid engagement to build a lot of trust very quickly, get a really clear plan on what this client actually needs, usually different than what they think they need. And then we pitch them the big project that we're going to do for them. And I find when you go through this engagement, the project looks very different than if you had written them a free proposal. And it's often a much higher price tag. And it's often a lot easier for them to say yes at that point. So now we're increasing the price that you're going to get. We're increasing the value of what you're delivering, and we're making the sale much easier. And then the second piece is delivering that in an intensive manner. So I teach, we do entire brands, websites, everything in a 2-day intensive with clients for $40,000. That didn't start at $40,000, but we made our way up to $40,000. And it doesn't mean that we are doing it faster or less. It just means that we have condensed the timeline to get rid of all the inefficiencies, all the BS. We've cut all the BS. And instead, we're just working intensively on one project at a time. And then I suggest that you schedule your projects consecutively instead of concurrently. So you're not jumping back and forth from projects. You just work on a project till it's done. And then you do the next one. You schedule out instead of starting projects as they come in and doing them at the same time. And just those two things alone will greatly increase your profitability.
That's it. That's it. I'm done. I'm getting up. I'm walking out of the studio. I am trashing my current business model. I'm buying 50 copies of Scale Solo for me and all my friends. And this is the way. This is the way. I want to ask you, just as we're wrapping up, and we totally have to have you back because we just scratched the surface of all of this. There is a level of fear. There is a level of fear, hesitation, doubt when people come to you. Whether it's coaching, whether they hear you speak, whether it's one of your programs, whether it's an intensive, they say, Pia, this all sounds great, but what I used to do for 10K, the math is now showing should be 35K. I don't think my clients, parentheses current, I don't think my current clients will pay 35K for what I've been selling for 10. And honestly, Pia, I'm having a hard enough time finding people with a $10,000 check, much less a $35,000 check. Is this whole thing not going to run my business into the ground with 0 clients and 0 revenue? I'm scared. What do I do? Coach me through that conversation about selling something for 35K that I used to sell for 10 and still have a hard time scraping up enough leads that were willing to pay 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fair fear. And I think it comes from an assumption that I haven't said, which is you are assuming that you are going to sell the same thing the same way for 3 times as much. And that is not
to the same prospect.
And to the same so many things, right? So, and that you're going to triple your price, 3x plus your price
for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is not take the same thing and just put a higher price tag on it. And I would never recommend that. And even when people say you're worth more, raise your price, I think that is, malpractice. Of course, do not raise your price if you're just gonna, right? You can't sell it right now. Like, that's not the problem. It's just that you aren't charging enough. For example, the lead product is one example of how we can increase the perceived value and actual value of what you're doing. That is one piece, right? Also, raising your price is an incremental process to me. So you might have a fear of charging $35,000 because you've never charged anything like that. You've probably also never spent anything like that. But my process for increasing prices is sell, raise incrementally, sometimes negligibly too. Sell it for $10,000 3 times, then sell it for $10,500. And build your personal confidence in your pricing, because your confidence in your pricing is key to actually selling at those prices. Because if you've sold something 10 times for $10,000 and then you try to sell it for $10,500 and the next person says that's too much, you're not going to go, oh my God, my price is too high. You're going to go, no, it's not. I've sold it for 10,000 10 times. This is not different. So we have to build our own confidence in our pricing. So it is a process to get there, but it is absolutely possible. I've coached so many people to prices where they're like, I wasn't even trying to sell it at this price. This is so much higher than I thought. But because they went through the process of incrementally increasing it while tightening the entire value of it and the offer, when they get there, it feels like, of course I'm charging this, because they've built up to it.
Man, we could literally just keep going, but for this episode, we're going to land the plane here with a couple final questions.
Okay.
Final question number 1. If people were to take one core idea besides go out and buy Scale Solo, go out and buy Scale Solo. No, right now, stop the podcast, get off the treadmill, pull over the car, Amazon, wherever you buy books, Scale Solo, Pia Silva, search for it, buy it. Don't be a dumbass. Get the book. That's my final core idea takeaway. But out of all the strategies that you so brilliantly talk about in Scale Solo, what would you say is the emerging theme or the big takeaway idea that people should get from reading and absorbing the book?
Focusing is going to get you there faster. Doing fewer things better. And that is in a lot of ways, right? Focusing your marketing, focusing who you work with, focusing your offer, focusing your sales process. And those are, the 5 parts of the book, right? These are each ways that we can cut all the clutter and just do a couple of things very well. And if you're an expert, who values excellence. I mean, those are my people. People who are attracted to me are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists. They care immensely about delivering very high value. And they just get a little lost in the business piece because there's just so many messages coming at us. So the one thing is, if you value excellence, excellence is about repetition on the same thing over and over again and getting better and better at it. So you need to do fewer things so you can get better at them. And that, yes, you already know that about your skill set. You need to do that with your business too.
Amen. Oh my gosh. If people want, and they will, if people want to get connected and stay connected to more Pia Silva brilliance, where can we send them? The book, the website, the programs, what links should go in the show notes?
I think probably 2 links. The first is scalesolobook.com. You can grab information there. And then I also I created the Cliff Notes. The Cliff Notes to the book is the Scale Solo Playbook. So you can grab that at nobsmastery.com/playbook. And then you can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm at Pia Loves Your Biz. BIZ.
Ooh, very nice. Excellent. Well, again, we've only scratched the surface. So let's plan another episode soon, and we will make it happen. Pia Silva, you are a rock star. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate you. This was so fun.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.